Hi, welcome to another episode of Patch and Rant. This time I'm joined by Maurice. Well, how are you doing today, Maurice?
Good, Rudy. Good to be here.
Somehow I convinced you to come over and join a Patch and Rant session, I guess.
Yeah, I know, right? And this is even without all of your baiting at these conferences where you keep telling something about me that I don't like you telling everyone.
Something to do with cheese, I guess. People,
yeah.
Most of the time when presenting a session, one of my last slides, I somehow refer to Maurice's session, and I do that by asking people to ask Maurice why he hates cheese. So yeah, it's going to be a cheesy Patch and Rant this time, I guess.
Yeah, this one's going to be really cheesy.
Really, really cheesy. But I guess it's not all about cheese, but also something about mitigating vulnerabilities and patching devices this time.
Yeah, I mean, where's the concept for this whole company come from, right? So, when Justin set up the home updater, what was it to do? Well, it was to keep stuff up to date. And
Exactly.
why do you keep it stuff up to date, really? Like, do I just do it for features? For laughs?
Who knows?
Yeah, well, I mean, I know you wouldn't get it in marketing, right? But one of the things that I do...
Oh, yeah, there it is. I was expecting that. Hi, well, I'm Rudy. I'm working officially in marketing. And Maurice, what's your department?
Hi, I'm in security. So,
that sounds really like this is your session then.
Yeah,
mitigating vulnerabilities. That's what you do all day then.
Yeah, when I seen the topic list come up, I was like, yeah, let's do that one, Rudy.
Okay. Well, yeah. And here we are.
So here we are, yeah. And what we're going to talk about today then is mitigating CVEs, right? So these vulnerabilities, because if we get a new version of Google Chrome, what's the chances that something mind-blowing is going to be added? Probably not.
No, it's pretty up to date, and it should have patched every single vulnerability that it had in previous versions. At least that's what we're hoping.
Exactly, right? So these common vulnerabilities and exposures, right? CVEs. Typically, this is a metric that's used to determine the level of risk and what that risk is. So it's a documented kind of description of how this application could be vulnerable in a certain set of circumstances. Now, when it comes to the vulnerabilities themselves, how does that happen on the machine, right? So, I've seen this years ago when ransomware was starting to be a thing. Typical IT thing, you take a day off and something happens.
Yeah, we all know it. We have all been there.
Yeah, exactly.
The moment you are day off, it happens.
Everyone can say, yeah, that this has happened to me. So you get a phone call, right? We think we got ransomware going on. And we had triggers on a file server at the time to look for those ransomware file types.
Oh, you did the same thing as me then?
Yeah. I mean,
the good old days, the legacy days.
The legacy days, right? So when this is starting to come out, you're like, okay, I have a file server, so I'm going to put file filters on and triggers. And
of course, have done pretty much the same job back in the days then.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, we were talking about that. I didn't stay around for as long in one job as you did, so
okay,
bravo for that one. But but yeah, we were doing we have the same kind of background. So, and OneDrive wasn't a thing at that time, right? So you had redirected folders. So all of a sudden, you have this alert saying there's files going up that are being changed, right? And it was as benign as this. So someone I worked with at the time, they literally went on and browsed the website, and I think it was something like a tennis club, a local tennis club or something like that. But they had malicious code in the website, and then bang, stuff started happening. Now, this was the start of things, and of course, us as admins back then, we started kind of having to change our view in the world, because it wasn't just about, oh, you might get a virus on your machine. Well, now it was, you might just browse the internet and stuff happen. And we see this happening more and more and more. It's not a case of, someone goes to a conference and gets handed a USB key and plugs it in. It's sure that happens too, but there's other ways.
Browsing the internet and getting affected because you have an older Chrome browser installed. Yeah.
Exactly, right? And these are applications that your users are using on a daily basis. Sometimes they might be a local admin, which makes it very much easier to do stuff. But they don't have to be an admin for really bad stuff to happen. And that kind of bad stuff can be stuff like, data exfiltration, escalation of privilege. So,
That's a
I'm
bad
a
one.
standard user. Oh no, I'm in a min.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that at all. And like down to stuff like reputational damage. So as organizations get breached, they have to come out and explain what happened, what the circumstances were, what data was leaked, etc. So this is where we need to basically start patching. Now, what's the level of risk?
There it is. There's
the cheese, right? So this
I was
is
waiting
fine.
for that one. This
Thanks,
is fine.
ChatGPT.
You stole that one. This is fine.
This is fine. Yeah, I like that one. So you're always wearing that T-shirt. Actually, it's my favorite meme of all time. But I was like, ChatGPT, give me some cheese with bugs in it, and this is fine sign. So there we go. And I said, put some
a nice
fire
combination.
in the background.
Yeah, well, that really shows the level of risk we are at.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So like Windows, so you're using this operating system, and it has a bunch of holes in it. Some bigger than others. And when it comes to things like Windows, well, maybe those are the big holes, right? And you've got maybe less big holes and lots of tiny holes. And those tiny holes can be lots of different things. They can be like third-party applications. They can be drivers. They can be firmware. Lots of different things going on. So how do we mitigate against this? So the first thing, I mean, you know all about this. We work in the same space. We're in the same category, etc. In the MVP. Okay, what's happened to Windows Update for Business, Rudy?
Windows Update for Business. Well, it got renamed. That's one thing, that's for sure. But
check.
Well, job done then. I'm in marketing, and marketing is all about renaming stuff. So I know about a rename. But yeah, Windows Update for Business, it ensures that your devices will be automatically updated when a new Windows Update will be released. Windows Update for Business, Windows Update client policies will ensure that update, depending on the rings you configured, your device will be updated. But as we've seen in the overview Maurice is sharing, what happens at Patch Tuesday?
Yeah, well, you're going to see that kind of big dip. And that's where your devices go from being compliant to non-compliant. And the reason is, well, there's a whole bunch of updates that need to be applied, right? Well, or at least, maybe one cumulative update or something like that. So what really I could see here, like we had a line going compliant, and then boom.
Yeah.
But why didn't it just go straight back up again?
I assume it takes a little bit of time before everyone is going to reboot the device before the update is installed, grace periods, that kind of stuff, to ensure that all the devices are going to be updated, rebooted, and reporting the status back to the service that they are fine.
Exactly, yeah. So it depends on your update ring configuration.
Yeah.
And like you say, people restarting their machines, grace periods coming into it. Now, auto patch, it covers a lot of things, right? It actually covers, not listed as it does cover driver and firmware as well. So you can do that now in Intune. And honestly, the experience there, it's good. It could be better, but it gives you a way of doing stuff like firmware updates, which in the past was a bit of a nightmare, right? So, having to script those kind of things. Now with the EFI capsule, it just happens. But the other things that it does well, of course, will be, Windows 365 apps, agent teams.
Almost everything.
Almost. And what's that new thing now we have?
Hot patching. Sounds pretty cool, right? We know that we got that on servers. So when you applied an update on a server, you really didn't want that server to be rebooted, because a reboot means downtime, and the same thing was released for Windows clients themselves. So we can now ensure that our Windows 11 device is being updated with an update, and we no longer, at least we need to reboot the device a couple of times in a year, but not every single month, which reduces downtime, especially for the production type of machine. So if those devices that are placed in a factory that you really didn't want to reboot every month, well, with hot patch, you no longer have to reboot your device every single month, which is way better in my opinion. So it should be enabled by default, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this is cool, right? That ability to keep devices up as long as possible, because we've always had that problem of end users don't restart machines. So what we
Nope.
start doing is enforcing them to restart after grace periods and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think a lot of organizations are going to change that view because they've kind of got there with end users. So hot patching might be very much useful in some niche circumstances, like
the factory
you said,
things,
manufacturing. But what about third-party stuff? Well, okay.
That's not included, right? Not in.
It's not included, right? So I'm going to give you an example here, right? So Notepad++.
Always Notepad.
Yeah, our favorite Notepad thing. And some use it for coding. I'm not shaming you if you use it for coding. I was one of those people. But yeah, it's an application that we kind of find is on a lot of machines, right? So all of a sudden, if I go in and have a look at the CV database, okay, I can then see, well, hold on, there's a lot of associated CVEs with this.
That's a lot, only because it's Notepad++?
Yeah, just because this is Notepad++, right? This is just Notepad++.
Just not, okay. That's a lot of SVEs just for one single simple app.
It is, right? And
but it can impact a lot.
some of the stuff that's highlighted here, like exploitation of vulnerability may affect service confidentiality. Or
that's a nice one.
The really nice one is that the vulnerability may lead to privilege escalation.
Oh, that's where you said from standard becoming an admin user, and that's fine because then you can really install everything.
Exactly, right? And maybe today you're hybrid and there's a bit more risk associated with that because you have things called like lateral movement, getting hold of golden tickets past the hash kind of thing, moving from machine to machine for lateral movement. It's less of a risk, say, on entry devices. However, once you have full admin on the device, you can basically do what you want, right?
Yeah, keys to the kingdom. You can start doing everything you want, and depending on much time you have, well, the better and the more potential damage you can cause.
Exactly, right? And the thing is, this is just one application. You might have 60, 70 applications on the device.
Yeah, a lot of companies have way more applications than only Notepad++ and Google Chrome, so yeah.
Exactly. And in some cases, you have applications which were maybe made available in the company portal and you've kind of lost track of where are they? Who has what installed? Or maybe someone was an admin of the device and they've installed this application and you're not actually looking at it. So then it's about, well, how do I know what goes on? And, here's another example, right, of say, Google Chrome. So here we can see, execution of arbitrary code inside a sandbox via a crafted HTML page. So kind of goes back to my example.
That's a tennis club example, yeah. Exactly.
It's that same thing, right?
That's
so
a good
just the website. So then if we start looking at, say, well, what about firmware? And devices in general. So what I did here is I looked up and see what your device is. So you're on the left, the XPS 15. And then
that's nice to see.
I'm on the right, which is the XPS 14. And I kind of just went through Dell's website and said, give me a list of critical vulnerabilities. And then I categorized them. So we have drivers, we have application and firmware. And we can actually see across these two different devices that
it's
we have
almost the same, yeah.
Yeah, the same spread, right?
So applications have a lot impact on the whole vulnerability thing, yeah.
Yeah, so like applications, people always think, oh, I'm going to patch the apps and that's problem solved. But here we can see...
But it's also drivers, firmware, it's a whole package, not only Windows, it's not only drivers, it's not only firmware, it's not only applications, it's a combination of everything we need to patch.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like you could say on average around about 66% there of critical vulnerabilities are not applications. And when you start looking into this, right? So what it is, I had a look at your one, right? Now you're on the latest firmware, so you're fine, okay? Because
Oh,
we're doing that, right? So
that
we're
makes me
using all the
happy.
patch. Yeah,
So I'm
and
the guinea pig then for every single firmware driver.
I put all the new policies just to you first, Rudy, and then I see
No,
if you complain. And if you don't complain, I push them out to everyone else.
but I always complain.
Yeah, I know. So I never push
Okay, yeah.
anything anymore. No, joking. But what I had to do is I had to go back over a few different BIOS updates. And I think this is about 3 releases ago for your machine.
Yeah.
And here we can actually see this is a Dell security advisory, but basically it's their documentation to say this is a an article and it relates to these CVEs on this device. And firmware, one of the first things I actually kind of pointed people at keeping their firmware up to date was Spectra and Meltdown. So that
that brings back
CPU,
memories. Yeah,
yeah, the
the
vulnerability
CPU
that you
stuff.
had in the Intel CPUs. And here we can see like OpenSSL, and actually anyone that's used the Defender Security Portal will see that OpenSSL in particular, that's got a lot of vulnerabilities, and it's built into many applications. Kind of makes it actually difficult to get patched. But so how do we detect that these issues are issues in our environment?
Well, if we have Defender, we can spot that, right? At least
Exactly.
if we are licensed, which costs a lot of money. If you want to have it in place for every single user/device in your tenant, it could be a lot of money, but it will give you all the insights you need, I assume. Or at least
Yeah,
I assume you're going to show us that.
exactly. Yeah. So let me show you what this looks like. So if we, so this is the portal, and I'll make it a little bit bigger.
Oh yeah. Otherwise, I
So
also need glasses.
get out the magnifying glass.
Yeah.
So here we have a list of inventories, right? So we've gone on the left side, we've gone down to endpoints, we've expanded the vulnerability management, and we've gone to inventories. And this is a great way of determining what applications you have and what their exposure looks like over time, because you can actually see the exposed devices and it gives you a number. And there you can see where we have the green ones. That's where it's kind of regularly going down and down and down, right? So more and more devices are getting fixed time after
and green
time.
is good. Yeah.
Green
Red
is good.
Red,
Yeah.
green is good.
Yeah. Now with the red, it depends on the application, because like Chrome there at the top, they do a lot of updates. So you're going to see it kind of spike, go down a bit, spike,
go down, spiking, go down. Yeah, makes sense.
So you're kind of chasing your tail with some of them. But if we take Chrome,
ignoring it is also not a good thing. But yeah, looking at Defender and Chrome is pretty. I assume it can be pretty difficult to know if there's really a vulnerability going on. Or
well, yeah, that's a good question, right? So if we click on Chrome, it will then tell us. So we could go to install devices and we can see where it's installed. But that's not really useful at the moment. So if we click on open the software page, it brings us here.
That's a lot of more information.
Exactly, right? So now we're able to see the patching over time and stuff like that. However, we can also do stuff like this. So we can show a list of all of the critical vulnerabilities. And in this case, what I'll do is I'll just highlight this one down here.
Yeah, again, the red is bad one.
Yeah, so what does a red bug signify? Any idea?
I assume there's a open vulnerability and vulnerability open in the wild that could potentially cause issues when a device has that version of Chrome installed. Something like that.
Yes, but the red one in particular means that exploit is being used in the wild. Because often what happens is security researchers, they find these exploits, they report them to the vendor, and then the vendor releases an update and everything is
it will be fixed. Yeah.
But sometimes, threat actors, they find a vulnerability. And
they find the bug and they start using the bug to get a foothold inside of the company, and that's the red thing then.
Exactly that. So those are the ones that you should really worry about. Not to say that you should worry about them all, but
yeah, also worry about the rest. But the red ones, those are the ones in particular you need to deal with first.
Absolutely. So when we go to versions here, you can actually click on each version and see where they're installed. Now, in this case, it's showing that version 7.151 it is on the most devices in this environment.
Yeah.
Now, you can actually see one underneath that, though. It says 138. The reason is 138 literally got released a day ago. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm not
That
expecting
makes
that to
sense.
be on a lot of devices yet, because maybe what I've done is I've had an update ring that says, okay, all devices in IT, day 0, you're getting patched. And then maybe early adopters after that, with a bit of a delay, and then general release after that. Because the thing is, we don't want to break anything either, right? So
Nope.
having rings in place, just like you did with
Yeah,
auto patch,
security versus productivity, ensuring that every device is secure, but also not breaking productivity for the devices that need to be updated.
exactly right, because no one appreciates that phone call to say I can't work.
Nope.
So, all right. So we've just kind of covered CVEs and how they can affect your device, but and
Yeah,
also like how you can look at it natively inside a Microsoft world. But
which is
how
pretty
do
cool,
we as a
but
company help?
yeah, we can do it also, but I assume a little bit bad because I assume you're going to show us something new that we were working on.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I can do that. So,
Oh, people going to see a live demo of advanced
yeah,
insights then?
let's
Oh,
do a live demo and see what
that's
happens.
neat. Yeah,
All
it will be
right.
fine.
It'll be fine. Yeah, nothing. This is a demo environment anyway. Okay.
Yeah.
So I know it's going to be fine. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to step you through how us as an organization can help you mitigate against this. Now, obviously, the first thing that we can do is, well, we create applications, right? So we create the base installer
Yep.
and we create updates. Now, the thing about the base installer is like being a, say, config manager admin back in the day, you would create an application. Let's just say it's Adobe Acrobat Reader. That application gets created, you distribute it, you put it into your task sequence, you deploy machines. Great, they all have Adobe Acrobat
Yep.
Reader when they get the desktop. Problem is, several months down the road, you're still deploying that same version.
The same old version.
Exactly. So that's where the likes of Patch PC comes into play, where you're able then to say, okay, I want to create this version, but I want to keep the base installer up to date. So that means if you're using, say, Config Manager, that the application that's referenced in your task sequence is always the latest one. Or if you're using Intune, that the application deployed in Autopilot or downloaded through the company portal, again,
It's
is
always
always
the latest and
exactly.
the most secure one.
Yeah. And of course, the other thing that we can do is we can control, depending on the application, if they've got like a built-in update mechanism, that we can actually turn that off. And the reason that we might want to do that is maybe we want to have that same release across all devices,
All
that we don't
devices.
have, yeah, like instability issues coming up where, user John over here has a problem. Okay, and John is on a slightly different build to Mary over here. And then you're kind of chasing your tail. Where's this problem coming from?
Yeah. Sounds familiar.
So, one of the things we can do here, so depending on how your license, if we're looking at the Enterprise Plus, which is that mid-tier one at $3.50 per device per
Yeah.
year, we get something like this. This is the Patch Insights. Now, in this case, we can go to software updates and we can click on updates here, and it tells us how compliant we are across the board with each update. Now, when it loads, here we go. Now, in this case, it is just referring us to the article IDs. So in some cases, it's our own internal Patch IPC article.
Which makes
Or
sense.
others, sorry, Rudy?
Which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we document this stuff for our customers.
Yeah.
Or in others, it's a KB. Right. This is bread and butter stuff. Any admin has always known how to look up the KB articles. Now, in some cases, it will outline what the CVEs are in the description. In others, it will not. Okay, so this is the free reporting solution that gets added as part of that Enterprise Plus. Now, when we move to the Enterprise Premium, we're kind of doing the same thing that we have with the threat vulnerability management dashboard that we have inside the Defender portal, right? Or Security Center, I mean. So if we go to Threat Analytics, and this is, again, included in the premium license, now we're able to see the exact CVEs associated.
Ooh, that's nice.
And we can see their baseline score, their risk, and on how many devices that they're actually on. Okay.
That's nice.
Yeah, I mean, this is for Configuration Manager. Yep. Now, for those of you that are using Intune, so you're just using, say, the SaaS service, we do have a private preview at the moment of a tool, which is Advanced Insights for Intune. And it is a bit of a departure for us, because the one thing that we're doing a little bit differently now is we have an agent. That's my focus period notification coming up.
Time is up.
Time is up, yeah. But we have an agent, and that agent then is able to gather additional information. And a lot of the reports that you're going to see, or what I'm showing here, really we're looking to translate that across to Intune. So that's something that you can look into, getting a private preview with us. And I think we're trying it with quite a few customers at the moment. But what else can we do? So thinking about where this is going with our product, right? Let's have a look at our roadmap. And one of the highlighted things I have here, which is in development at the moment, is dynamically deploying updates in Intune based on security data.
Security data. That's even better.
Yeah. So now we're not even necessarily needing to worry about it. Okay, it is going to happen automatically for us.
So we don't need to worry about anything then, or at least about a little bit less stuff then.
A little bit less, yeah. I mean, if we didn't need to worry about anything, it'd be very boring.
Yeah, that's true.
But let's have a look just as a quick video here as well. This is all coming together with a product that we also have for iOS and Android, and it's called CVE Insights. And the idea of this application is it gives you a curated newsfeed into things that are happening in the environment. So like here we have a CV, it's rated high, tells us about the products it's impacting. But not only that, it will then tell us whether this actually impacts our environment. So you can tie this into your tenant, okay, through your Patch and Rant PC Cloud connector, and then it will be able to tell us about what's actually going on.
So everyone can download that application and just get more insights of what's happening then.
Exactly, right. And this is going to be one of the things that kind of really grows with us over the next while, to the point of, maybe you have the application, tells you this impacts my environment, and you just basically hit a button that says patch, and it just goes off and does that thing.
That sounds even more amazing.
Indeed. And we're working on some really cool stuff. But I suppose
I know.
For people that haven't used our product, or they want to know more, what should they do really? Because you're the marketing guy.
Oh yeah, then we need to hint to the demo page, I guess. Oh, you already have opened the demo page as well. So yeah, as Maurice was just telling us, we are working on some more amazing features. So we just talked about the SVE Insights app. We just talked about the Advanced Insights for Intune. Yeah, what's next, right? We have a lot more stuff that's going to be released, right?
We do. Yeah, I mean, I make a joke that you're the marketing guy, because you're so not the marketing guy. You're the guy that decompiles stuff. I've never heard of marketing people doing that.
Well, that's a funny thing, but yeah, I'm decompiling stuff, and Maurice knows what I'm working on, so yeah, he knows a little bit more, but. Yeah, for everything else and all this amazing stuff that Patch and Rant PC is doing, well, I would just say go to our website, book a demo, and see how amazing we are. Right?
Absolutely.
I guess that finishes it off. So we are going to wish everyone a splendid day and see you at the next episode of Patch and Rant then. And thanks, Maurice, for joining me and explaining a little bit more about the SV insights and everything you did about Defender.
Thanks, Rudy. Pleasure as always.